Have you ever said yes to something and immediately regretted doing that? Maybe you agreed to help someone when you were already exhausted, or you said yes to a project that is literally draining your time and your energy just because you didn't want to feel guilty for saying no. I get it. I've been there. Saying no feels uncomfortable, and we don't want to let people down. But what if I told you that saying no is the most powerful thing you can do for your happiness, your success, and your peace of mind? Today, I am going to talk about why the power of saying no will change your entire life. Why saying no is the key to taking your power back. And this one skill can open doors that you never imagined. Let's get into it. Hey, and welcome back to another episode of Wellness from Scratch. I'm your host, Marissa Jackson, and I'm so happy you're here with me today. Have you ever found yourself saying yes when deep down you really didn't want to? Maybe it's a favor for a friend, or an extra task at work, or maybe even an event that you just don't have the energy for. But you said yes anyway. Why? Well, that's because saying no feels uncomfortable, because you don't want to let people down and you feel like you should do it. But here's the hard truth that a lot of people look over. Constantly saying yes comes with a price. When we start saying yes, we begin to fill our schedule with obligations, leaving no room for ourselves. At first, you might think, this isn't a big deal. I can handle it. It's just one more thing. But over time, one more thing starts to pile up, and it's not just one more thing anymore. And suddenly you find yourself feeling exhausted, drained, and resentful. Burnout isn't something that just happens overnight. It slowly creeps into your life, and it's filled with endless streams of obligation that weren't yours to deal with in the first place. Overcommitting to things doesn't just affect your time. It also affects your mental and physical well-being. Your stress builds up, your sleep starts to suffer, your mood changes, and suddenly you're snapping at people, struggling to concentrate, and feeling overwhelmed by the smallest tasks. Saying yes when you don't have the capacity is like overloading your circuit board. Sooner or later, things are going to stop working. And personally, I think the most dangerous part of saying yes is the fact that it keeps you from truly doing the things that matter to you most. Every single time you agree to something that doesn't align with your goals, you are taking valuable energy and time away from things that truly matter. That creative project you wanted to start, self-care routine you've been trying to start, it gets sacrificed. That dream you've been working towards, that's all it will ever stay, is a dream, if you continue to say yes to things that don't serve you. And this is because your energy is spent on things that aren't even yours. Saying yes to everyone else means saying no to yourself. And that's a price you shouldn't have to pay. So the question is, how do we break this cycle? We have to start by recognizing that no is not a bad word. It's a tool that protects our mind, energy, and our mental health. Saying a no doesn't make you selfish, and it doesn't mean that you don't care. It just means that you respect yourself enough not to pour from an empty cup. So here's my challenge to you. The next time you feel the internal pressure to say yes, I want you to pause and ask yourself this. Is this something I truly want to do? Do I have the energy for it? Does it align with my beliefs? If the answer is no, then say no. Your time, your energy, and your dreams are too valuable, so stop giving them away for free. This is my favorite part of this episode. We're going to talk about how we can recognize our boundaries. In my personal life recently, since starting this new journey of podcasting and YouTubing, I have dealt with a lot of people who are trying to push me recently in directions that I'm just not willing to go in anymore. It feels really good to be able to either say no or just not even acknowledge what people are trying to throw at me. You know, learning that my boundary is that I require self-respect, integrity, honesty, and a mutual exchange in energy. I have realized who is truly by my side and who I've needed to let go of in my life. And honestly, it's been one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. But I also have never felt more whole and happy since letting go of the people in my life who honestly just made me feel bad about myself. Because you can't make people feel bad about themselves and expect them to want to stay around you. That's what I call delusion. But anyway, back to the episode. Boundaries are essential for protecting our peace, and I've just realized this very recently. Boundaries help us maintain our well-being, and it ensures that we stay aligned with our values. But for so many of us, especially those who have experienced trauma, unhealthy relationships, and people-pleasing, setting boundaries can feel overwhelming and impossible. I know exactly how this feels. Before I started setting boundaries, I really didn't know how to say no because I didn't want anyone to dislike me. But one thing I've come to realize is that it doesn't matter if you say yes or no. People are going to show you how they feel about you, regardless whether you say yes or no to whatever they're asking you for. So let's break this down into 3 key parts. First, we need to understand what matters most to us and understanding our own values in life. Before you can set boundaries on what will make you happy and healthy, first you have to decide what makes you happy and healthy. This is where self-awareness comes in. You have to ask yourself questions like, what do I value most in life? Is it peace, growth, authenticity, connection, or independence? You have to find out which one matters most to you in life. What drains my energy and makes me feel disrespected? Where have I felt resented in my past? Resentment is often a boundary that has been crossed. When you take time to stop and look at these questions, you start to recognize patterns, whether that's in your relationships, your work, or maybe your personal time. These patterns show you where you need boundaries the most. The next step is to start setting clear boundaries to protect your time, energy, and emotional well-being. Once you understand your values and your priorities, you can start setting boundaries to protect them. Boundaries look different for everyone. Everyone is going to have the same boundaries because not everything is going to feel the same to everyone. Here are a few different examples of some potential boundaries people might have. The first one would be an emotional boundary, not allowing people to dump their negativity on you or guilt trip you into doing things that you're uncomfortable with. I can identify personally with having to set this boundary recently within my own life with a few different people. And if you're watching this, you know who you are. Time boundaries. Saying no to last-minute plans or people who don't respect your schedule. Physical boundaries, meaning protecting your personal space and physical comfort. Digital boundaries. Muting, blocking, or limiting interactions with people who drain your energy online. The key here is to have clarity on what you value and what is important to you. It's not just hoping people are going to respect your space, because I can tell you from personal experience that they are not going to, and they don't care. People who don't care about your boundaries are not just going to magically start treating you better. You have to claim your power back and say, I'm not putting up with your behavior anymore. It's hurtful and offensive. You have to be intentional when you are communicating your limits, or people are just going to continue to walk all over you. And lastly, you have to communicate your boundaries effectively and respectfully. A lot of people fear setting boundaries because they're afraid to hurt other people's feelings or causing conflict. But boundaries are not about controlling others. It's about taking responsibility for yourself. When you communicate your boundaries effectively, you actually build stronger relationships with those who respect you. A great way to communicate your boundaries is the use of I statements. Personally, one of the I statements I use would be, I require honesty, integrity, and support in order for people to be in my life. Instead of saying, you're a liar and your support is fake, you could say, I require honesty, integrity, and a mutual exchange in energy in order to have people in my life. And one thing I've got to say, when you are communicating your boundaries, do not over-explain or justify yourself. You don't have to justify yourself when they are your boundaries. You don't owe anybody an explanation. A simple yet firm response is just enough. You could say something like, I won't be able to make it, but I appreciate you thinking about me. I'm sorry, but that just doesn't work for me. Or something like, I need some time to recharge, so I'm not going to be available today. And please remember, I had to learn this the hard way, but just remember that not everyone is going to like your boundaries. And honestly, in my own opinion, that's just the toxic people showing you who they are. When you have the right people in your life, they will respect them. Full stop. Full stop. The wrong people, they're gonna try to test them, push them, make you fall back in line to who you used to be. And honestly, that tells you everything you need to know about that relationship in your life. Boundaries are not about shutting people out, are about protecting what matters to you most. And they allow you to show up in your relationships as the best version of yourself. When you start enforcing your boundaries, you will notice a significant shift in your life. I know I have. Less stress, more confidence, and a stronger connection with those who truly respect you. So now let's talk about the power of saying no. Learning to say no to things that don't serve you is the most powerful thing you can do in your life. Every time you say yes to one thing, you are saying no to something else. Your time on this earth is very limited. And if you fill your time on this planet with things that do not fulfill you and they just make you feel overwhelmed, if you fill it with obligations that don't align with your values and your goals, you're gonna find yourself running on empty. Saying no is not about being selfish. It's about being intentional. It's about recognizing that your time and energy are valuable. And if you spread yourself too thin, you won't be able to show up fully for the things that truly matter to you. Think about a time when you said yes out of what you probably felt was obligation. How did that make you feel? Probably frustrated, exhausted, or even resentful. Now think about a time when you said no confidently to something that didn't serve you. That feeling of relief and that sense of control, well, that's what we're aiming for. When you start saying no to things that don't align with your values, you make room for things that do. Whether that's spending more quality time with your family, focusing on your health, or building something meaningful, like this channel and podcast. And here's the thing, when you start setting boundaries, people will adjust. At first, some might be surprised or even push back, especially if they've always gotten away with you saying yes. But over time, they will learn to respect your limits. The people in my life have. At least the ones that are still in my life. And one surprising thing that I never expected from all of this was the fact you will learn to respect yourself even more. I know I have through this whole journey. When you say no, it creates space for personal growth and fulfillment. When you constantly say yes to things that don't serve you, you leave no room for opportunities. Opportunities that could bring you joy, growth, or even change your life. I know since I started this journey, my life has changed completely, and I'm just so grateful for this journey and each and every one of you here trying to grow with me. You know, it's beautiful. Sometimes saying no to one thing actually means saying yes to something better. Saying no can be uncomfortable at first, but the more you do it, the more comfortable you will get with it. It's a skill that allows you to build a life that aligns with your goals, rather than being dictated by the obligations and expectations of other people. So if you're watching this and you've been feeling drained and overwhelmed, I challenge you to take a step back and look at where your energy is going. What can you start saying no to right now so you can start saying yes to the things that truly light up your world? Let me know down in the comments below. Let's talk about it. Also, comment down below if you're gonna try and start setting boundaries in your life. One of the most powerful skills you can develop is the ability to say no to people. I know for so many of us, especially if you grew up as a people pleaser or in an environment where you weren't allowed to say no, it can be really uncomfortable at first, but I'm telling you, once you start, you're not going to regret it. Learning to say no has changed my life in ways I really never expected. I've had improved mental clarity and less stress. A lot less stress. I stopped stretching myself so thin and saying yes to everyone and everything that came my way. You're overwhelmed, mentally exhausted, and resentful because you're spreading yourself too thin. And when you finally hold the power to say no to things, places, and people who are taking your life energy, you begin to have mental clarity about relationships, patterns, and situations that you really never were able to have before. I know that's true for me. I have gained a lot of clarity on a lot of relationships in my life that I didn't realize were literally draining everything I had in me. And I'm a lot happier now. When you start saying no and gain mental clarity, your mind isn't cluttered with the obligations of other people that just drain you and your energy. You're able to focus on the things that really matter to you. And like for me personally, that's making this podcast and trying to help people find a way forward who feel stuck and who honestly feel like I did 10 years ago. You know? Well, you don't know, but yeah. Saying no is like giving yourself the permission to protect your energy. It allows you to step away from situations that make you feel chaotic, bad, or just drained, and it leads you to a calmer, more peaceful way of life. Another benefit of saying no is increased productivity and efficiency. Every time you say yes to something that doesn't align with you, you're taking time and energy away from something that does. We only have so many hours in a day, and when you're constantly filling them with obligations that don't serve you, you're left with little time for the things that actually move you forward. When you start saying no to distractors, time wasters, and energy draining commitments, you'll find that you have more time and space to do the things that truly matter to you, whether that's your business, your personal growth, or your family. Saying no creates space for the things that truly deserve to be there. You will also find that saying no and having boundaries will strengthen your relationships through authenticity. This one might surprise you because many of us fear that saying no will actually push people away. But the truth is that when you say no with honesty and confidence, the right people are going to respect you for it. Saying no allows you to show up as your authentic self without trying to pretend to be someone you're not. Healthy relationships are built on mutual respect and understanding. When you set boundaries, you teach others how to treat you. You show them that your time, energy, and well-being are important. And here's the beautiful thing. When you stop saying yes out of obligation, the connections that you do invest in become so much more meaningful. You're actually fully present because you want to be there, not because you feel forced. You'll notice a huge shift in your peace, your productivity, and the quality of your relationships. Now let's get into some tips for saying no with grace. I mean, as we've already gone over in this episode, that the most important skill you can literally learn in your entire life is the ability to say no and protect yourself from things that are going to do nothing but drain you and hurt you. And I think with that, one of the most important things about that is that it's a skill. It's a skill that helps you. And since it's a skill, it means that it's something that you can develop over time. I think one of the most important skills that we can learn in our personal or professional lives is the ability to say no without guilt. If you've ever struggled with setting boundaries or felt pressured into saying yes when you really wanted to say no, this section is for you. Let's go over some simple yet powerful strategies to help you say no with confidence. Number 1, you have to practice assertive communication. Saying no does not have to be harsh or rude. The key here is to be clear, direct, and respectful. Assertive communication allows you to express your needs while maintaining positive relationships. Here are a few ways to phrase no in a graceful way. I appreciate the offer, but I won't be able to commit to that. That sounds great, but I have other priorities right now. I'm honored that you thought of me, but I'm going to have to decline. The goal here is to state your decision clearly without over-explaining yourself or apologizing unnecessarily. You don't owe anyone a long-winded explanation for your no. Let me say that again. You don't owe anyone a long-winded explanation or apology for saying no. Number 2 is offer alternatives. That is only if you want to. You're not obligated to do that. Sometimes you might want to soften your no by giving an alternative option. This is really helpful in professional settings or in settings where you want to offer support, but in a way that works for you. Here are a couple examples of things you could say. I can't help with that project this week, but I can definitely give you some advice on how to get started. Another one would be, I can't meet in person, but I'd be happy to give you a call. Offering alternatives lets you set boundaries while still being helpful. But please remember that you don't have to offer an alternative if you don't want to. It's only if you want to. And number 3, you gotta let the guilt go. You just gotta say, thank you for handing me this guilt, and I'm gonna give it right back to you. That's a practice I've been doing recently. When someone has come to me with something, trying to guilt me into anything, I have just said, thank you for this, I'm gonna hand it right back. And it's been working quite well for me. Saying no can feel really uncomfortable, especially when you're a people pleaser. But I need you to remember, your time and energy are valuable. You do not need to justify your no to something that isn't set up with your values and beliefs. Setting boundaries is a form of self-respect. Instead of feeling guilty, remind yourself that every yes to something that drains you is a no to something that truly matters. 4, use the pause and respond method. If you feel pressure to say yes in a moment, stop and pause before you respond. You could say something like, let me check my schedule and get back to you. Or, I need to think about that. I'll let you know soon. Giving yourself the time to process before you respond actually reduces your chances of saying yes out of guilt or obligation. 5, you need to recognize when someone is pushing your boundaries. Some people do not take no for an answer. If someone keeps trying to pressure you, just repeat your boundary firmly. Like I said before, I can't commit to this, or I've already made my decision. If they continue to push you, you might need to distance yourself from that person, or you might even have to be even more firm with your no. Here's my final thoughts. Saying no is self-care. The more you practice saying no, the easier it's gonna become. Protecting your time, energy, and your peace are vital to well-being and self-improvement. So the next time you feel pressured to say yes to something that doesn't align with your values or your goals, take a deep breath and remind yourself that you have every right to say no, and do it with confidence. Thank you so much for getting to this section of the video. I appreciate you guys so much, and I hope you have the confidence to start saying no to things that aren't serving you anymore. If you found this helpful and you want to build better relationships with the people in your life, I'd check out this video right here. Thank you so much for spending time with me today. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button so you don't miss any more amazing content where we talk about well-being. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.